'Tis I, Oatmeal, aka Carson. I might change my channel name later, but for now, Oatmeal Doodles it is. We've all seen the cartoons where the main characters are having a dainty little jaunt through the jungle when all of a sudden, quicksand. But that's just something that happens in cartoons. There's no quicksand in real life, right? Oh, I thought that I was being hyperbolic when I decided to call it quicksand, but that's pretty much exactly what happened. But real quick, the artwork in the background is of an old D&D character of mine by the name of Captain Finch. Keen-eyed viewers will also catch a glimpse of his twin sister, co-captain Starling. The captains had escaped a past of becoming indentured miners to instead become land pirates. But it is hard to escape the past, especially when it involves a mining company sending bounty hunters after you. They had a wagon, a mule named Muleficent, and a thirst for excitement and adventure. Finch was an arcane trickster rogue, hence the thieves' tools, and Starling was a Circle of the Stars druid. She has big sleeves and an even bigger hat. And with that, let's hop into the story. My family had just moved to the American Midwest, a land of corn, soybeans, and tornadoes. At the time, we were living in an apartment until my parents' new house got finished being built. For me, a new place to live meant new places to explore and new adventures to be had. I was more than happy for this brief stay in this foreign environment. But my mom was not built for apartment living. She didn't like kids, which was unfortunate because she had two very energetic ones. And she very much valued her personal space, which was also unfortunate because she was cooped up in this tiny little apartment, and it was starting to take its toll on her. One day, me and my younger brother, we'll call him Tom Ato.
My name is really Tom Ato.
Or Tomato. We're bouncing off the walls, filled to the brim with that childhood energy that every kid has. We begged our mom to come out and explore together, but she didn't want to. Why don't you just go out on your own and explore? She asked. Going out on my own was not an option. I had already moved twice in the past 2 years, and each time I had lost my friends, my school, my whole world basically, and being very shy, these were things that were really difficult for me to get back. My family was the only thing that I still had at this point, so I had quite a bit of abandonment anxiety. I wasn't going anywhere unless we were all going. But when me and Tomato got in a fight over our Lego set, our mom had had enough. We were kicked out of the apartment and told to go play outside and to stay where I can see you. So the die had been cast. Our fate had been etched in stone, and the judgment passed down from on high read, exile. We decided to make the best of it. Tomato and I found some sticks and had a little stick fight, but the newly planted apartment trees didn't offer much in terms of weaponry. When our twigs snapped, we set to explore the flood drainage ditch and found that it had a giant pipe tunnel. I tried to persuade Tomato to join me in exploring it, but he refused, stating that it wasn't where Mom could see us. I took a couple steps inside, but turned around when I saw the tapestries of spiderwebs decorating the tunnel's halls and ceilings. Finally, with not much else to do, we started to catch some bugs. Tomato contented himself to watching a ladybug crawling around a dandelion, but my eye caught something hopping around, a grasshopper. I chased after it, but it lived up to its name, hopping from one patch of grass to another, and finally landing safely on the other side of a fence surrounding the apartment complex. And that's when I saw it. A beautiful forest, chock full of life, deer frolicking through the dense underbrush, bunnies munching on verdant green leaves, and a small group of fairies having a tea party around what must surely have been a dragon's egg. I had found it. I had found our adventure. All that separated me from my prize was a fence and a dried-up sandy creek bed. I sprinted back to tell Tomato what I had found. I don't know, man. It seems like we could get in trouble, he said. No way! The fence is just to keep people out of the apartment complex. But we live here, so we can come and go as we please. And I haven't even told you the best part. Look! We are in full view of the apartment, just like Mom said. Here, I'll lift you up so you can go over. I made sure to stand in a way that blocked the no trespassing sign from his view. And with that, Tomato relented. I hoisted him over the fence and he jumped down, landing with a soft splat on the other side. Wow, it's pretty muddy over here, said Tomato. Okay, just wait for me to finish climbing the fence and I'll find us a safe way across the... I looked up from the fence and saw Tomato. He had that blank look on his face of someone who had just experienced something unexpected but was still trying to process exactly what it was. I followed his footprints from where he had landed, traced them to the edge of the creek bed, and saw the spot where he had jumped down to start crossing the creek to the other side. But the weird thing was, his legs were gone. It took me, and him, a second to realize that the dry creek bed wasn't as dry as we initially thought. Sure, there was no water running through it, but there was still plenty of water sitting there, soaking into the sandy mud that made the bottom of it. And there was Tomato, stuck up to his waist in that mud. Tomato's face turned to horror as he began to realize what had happened. I think this is quicksand! Help! I'm sinking! I scaled the fence, landing deftly on the other side. Don't worry, I have an idea, I said as I jumped into the creek bed, landing in the mud next to Tomato. This was your plan? I grabbed the base of a little tree sapling with my left hand and grabbed Tomato with my right hand and pulled as hard as I could, ripping us both from the hungry mud, dragging us to the riverbank where we were able to scramble our way up. I bent down to catch my breath. We had made it. Then something caught my eye. Tomato's bottom half was entirely covered in mud. Not a single inch had gotten out of that creek bed unscathed, except for 2 bright white socks peeking pristinely out from under his mud-caked pants. The creek had eaten Tomato's shoes. Mom was not going to be happy, but at least we had survived. That has to count for something, right? No, it would not. Escaping the quicksand had just delayed the inevitable. Our true cause of death would be returning home, covered in mud, missing Tomato's shoes. I knew it, and Tomato knew it. We sat back on the embankment for a minute. I can go back and try to grab my shoes, said Tomato. You'll just get stuck again. I can say that it was my fault, and that you came to save me. That way Mom will only kill one of us. You can live on to tell my story. I considered it for a second. No, I sighed. This was my fault, not yours. I caused this mess, so I'll clean it up. I stood up, brushed myself off, and jumped back into the mud. I landed right next to the 2 gaping holes left by Tomato's legs when I pulled him out. I felt the odd sensation of having both my legs locked into place by the mud, which had swallowed my lower half. You really couldn't move your legs at all. It was one of the strangest and most panic-inducing things I had felt up to that point in my life. But I pushed the panic down and leaned over, sticking my hand deep into Tomato's leg hole, feeling around until I found the missing footwear. Wow, what a sentence. I pulled out one shoe, then the next, tossing them over onto the bank of the creek where Tomato was able to retrieve them. We had recovered Tomato's shoes, but now we had another problem. I was completely stuck in the mud. There was no way that Tomato was going to be able to pull me out. I was too big, and after struggling about trying to get the missing shoes, I had gotten myself sucked down even deeper into the creek bed. Suddenly, all the panic that I had pushed down earlier started to bubble to the surface. Don't worry, I'll just find a vine or something to pull you out, said Tomato. There's no vines here! We're not in the land before time, we're in the freaking Midwest! Oh look, this tree branch will probably work. Tomato was holding a massive branch, which looked like it may have been a small tree at one point. He tossed one side over to me, pelting me in the face with leaves and greenery. But I didn't care. I was just happy he'd found a way to get me out. Tomato braced his newly shod feet against the base of the sapling I had used to free us from the mud earlier and started the countdown. 3, 2, 1! And at that, I started to pull myself from the hungry creek bed, sliding across the mud like a very regretful snake, inching my way back to dry land, one hand at a time. Tomato strained to hold his position at the top of the creek bed, holding fast to his end of the branch as I slowly slither-climbed my way to safety. Finally, I had made it. We heaved ourselves over the fence and trudged our way back to the apartment, where we called our mom on the intercom to let us back into the building. She showed up to the door to the building and took one look at us, exhausted, covered head to toe in mud, looking absolutely pitiful. She didn't say anything, she just turned around and left. I looked at Tomato, he looked back. We both knew it. We had pushed Mom too far. There was no way she was going to let us back into her house. We were on our own now. Just as I was starting to scheme up the best way to start our new careers as panhandlers, my mom returned with a bucket and a rag. She handed the bucket to me and pointed at a faucet outside the building. Water is over there. Don't call me down until you guys are both cleaned up. I don't know how long it took for us to wash off all that mud. I don't remember what my dad must have said when he came home. I do remember, though, that we watched American Idol for the first time that night. It was season 2 with Clay Aiken. I remember it distinctly, since I was also aching from all that clay we had to wash off. Hey yo, still got it! So what did we learn here? 1, don't go into places that say no trespassing. I didn't mention it earlier, but I was also panicking because I thought some farmer was going to come over and shoot us for stepping foot onto their land. 2, if you get stuck in something, don't panic. Just remember the land before time and find something to get you unstuck. And 3, if you are going on an adventure, tie your shoes nice and tight. The ground is hungry, and it might not be so forgiving next time. And you know who else is hungry? Me! So now let's hear a word from today's sponsor, who is also me. So I made these character sheets, and I think they're pretty neat. They're compatible with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And we got it all, baby! We have your main page for you to write down all your stats and skills, a page for you to write down all of your features and abilities so you don't have to keep on looking them up all the time. There's an inventory page. We got a spell page, and it even has a neat little frog in a hat. And there's a notes page, wowee! And if that wasn't enough, we even got them in black and white in case your printer runs out of ink or you just want to color these puppies in. And they're now available in 2 flavors, Frog Pond and Many, Many Mushrooms. If you're interested, check out that link in the description, or you can look up Oatmeal Doodles on Etsy. That's where they're being sold right now. Oatmeal Doodles has no affiliation with Wizards of the Coast or Dungeons & Dragons. Side effects may include excessive organization, jealousy around the table, trying to find dice that match your character sheets, strong desire to color, an abnormal amount of frog or mushroom themed characters, and on rare occasion, death. Because I mean, look at the death saves counter, it's adorable! It would be a shame not to use it. Wow, how neat is that? I'd say it's a solid 7 out of 10. Well, thank you for watching this puppy. Now, word on the street is that there is a prophecy that if you subscribe to this channel and take up the legendary weapon, the thumbs up of, like this video driel, rolls right off the tongue, you will become the chosen one. And if not, you can always refuse the call until next time. Even if you don't become the chosen one, you will always be the one I choose to watch my videos and help me someday earn a living off of this. Thank you once again, and fare thee well. I did a good job.